Hey everybody, it's Dave here from Dragonhill Games, and I put this video together to talk about the financial implications of the new Challenger 2020 decks. So we're not going to go through a lot of strategy, fundamentals, how to play on these decks. There's all kinds of great videos. These are all popular decks that are being played in standard right now. So there's all kinds of awesome videos on YouTube if you're looking at sort of deck tech and strategy and fundamentals of how to play these kind of decks. Then check out some of those videos. Specifically in this video, we're going to break down the value of each deck one by one, and you can make the decision for yourself if this is worth your hard-earned dollars. Alright, I'd like to mention a few things before we get into breaking down the decks. So all of the prices mentioned in this video are the prices at the time of filming of this video, and I use TCG listed median as a price point. Also, I won't be considering any cards worth less than $1 in the total value of the decks. All right, let's start at the top here with Allied Fires. And I just want to mention with all the decks, I've gone ahead and sorted them by rarity. That way we can kind of pick out, easily pick out all the different cards that, have some financial value and add to the deck for sure. All right, so going here with Allied Fires. Starting with the uncommons, we have a play set of Narset, Part of the Veils, which is really nice. That adds over $10 in value to the deck. Also an Ashiok Dream Render, a Dovin's Veto, and a couple of Fries add to our uncommon total. So the total value of all of the uncommons in this deck is $16.28. All right, moving along to the rares and mythics in this deck. So we have 3 copies of Deafening Clarion, a playset of Fires of Invention, also a playset of Sarkhan the Masterless. We have 1 Ugin the Ineffable, and the big winner in this deck for sure is Steam Vents. This card alone adds nearly $14 in value to the deck. And then we have 1 Kenrith the Returned King. So the total value of rares in this deck is $41.02, bringing the total value of the deck to $57.30. All right, so now that we know what this deck is worth in today's dollars, let's talk about how it fares post-rotation and into the long term. And while nobody has a crystal ball, here are some of the cards that I think should weather pretty well. Narset, Part of the Veils, appears in a lot of decks and in a lot of formats, so given time, this card should increase in value. Same sort of story with things like Ashiok Dream Render. I believe that Ugin the Ineffable at $4 and change today is probably at least flat or will slowly increase over time. And things like Shockland, so Steam Vents, cards like that are always going to have some value for sure. And another one of note that has good long-term potential is Kenrith the Return King. It's just a really fun commander kind of card for casual commander, right? So this is one of those that kind of will always be desired for sure down the road. All right, so moving along to the final adventure deck. So this is essentially just a Golgari Adventures type deck. The only uncommon of note in this deck is 4 copies of Noxious Grass, bringing our uncommon total to $8. Now, it's a completely different story over on the rare side. There's quite a few valuable rares in this deck. 2 copies of Knight of the Ebon Legion add almost $11 to the deck, and a couple of copies of Midnight Reaper. 2 copies of Murderous Rider is about $13, and same sort of story with a couple of copies of Castle Lochthwain. The big win in this deck is Fabled Passage at $18.50. This is definitely a nice include if you are looking to add another one to your collection. And 1 copy of Vraska Golgari Queen. Now it's interesting, they show the mythic Planeswalker version of this card, which is like a $70 card. I can 100% guarantee this is not going to be included in the deck, so I just use the pricing on the regular Vraska Golgari Queen around $12. Bringing our rare and mythic totals to $69.81. So the total value of the deck is $77.81. All right, so how does this deck fare over time? Well, I think the 4 copies of Noxious Grass will continue to see play as sideboard text in various, Pioneer and Modern decks, post-rotation. Over on the rare side, I think it's a bit different story. A lot of these cards, I think, fade into obscurity, after rotation. Knight of the Ebon Legion will probably continue to see some fringe play and some mono-black decks and things like Pioneer and stuff like that. Midnight Reaper will go away. I mean, we already have Grim Harspecks from Khans of Tarkir in Pioneer, and that's just a better card, and it's, junk rare status. So Midnight Reaper definitely kind of disappears after rotation. Murderous Riders, one that will probably weather well. It should increase, at least hold ground for sure, or increase over time. And Castle Lochthwain, I think, has a lot of long-term potential, barring, any massive reprints. I mean, if they put it in every other new product they decide to come out with for the next year, well, I mean, there's going to be a lot of Castle Lochthwains out there. But assuming this is sort of the last product we see this in, because it is from Throne of Eldraine, so I mean, really shouldn't have too many more of these entering the market, then, I think Castle Lochthwain has a lot of long-term potential growth, be in a lot of decks, just at one or two is a lot of commander decks and, Pioneer Modern, things of that nature for sure. Fabled Passage is a weird one. I really don't know what to say about this card. This card could be $5 or $25 down the road. I don't know. I mean, we don't have any fetch lands in Pioneer. There is no sort of intention, having the regular sort of fetch lands in Pioneer. So this is really what we got in terms of fetch capabilities in Pioneer. So I mean, I'm sure this card is always going to have some value, but it's very, very, very difficult to see what sort of the long-term chart on this looks like. And Vraska Golgari Queen, I mean, she's one-ofs in various Pioneer decks, but I don't really see her holding this $12 value that she has. So overall, I think this deck doesn't weather all that well, certainly not as well as something like the Allied Fires deck would. All right, moving along to the Cavalcade Charge deck, and this is by far and away, in my opinion, the best deck of the lot for sure. Not only is it the most money financially, like this one blows the other ones out of the water in the value that you're getting out of this deck. This deck here would tear it up straight out of the box. This is the only deck that you really don't need to make any changes to. The only thing, I play this deck online. I've played versions of all of these decks online, but I play a lot of Cavalcade. At least I did. More recently, red decks kind of moved to sort of big red and away from Cavalcade, but let me tell you, this is still a very, very strong deck. And the only changes I would personally make is very minor. I would probably take out 2 or 3 of these mountains and replace them with the common Dwarven Mine from Throne of Eldraine. But other than that, like I said, this deck really needs nothing, straight out of the box. It's just going to rip it up. But okay, let's have a look at, the values of what we're getting in here. So in the uncommon slot, we get a playset of a Cavalcade of Calamity. And then also we have a playset of Light Up the Stage. Light Up the Stage is adding like $12 in value to this deck just for this playset of Light Up the Stage. All right, so moving over to the rare side, bunch of great rares in this deck, a bunch of stuff that's really gonna stand the test of time, I think. Playset of Bonecrusher Giant, and this is one that's going to see a lot of play in Pioneer as well forever. So post-rotation is an excellent card to have, in this deck for sure. Playset of Fervent Champion, Runaway Steamkind. Again, Torbram, a playset which I think is a little much. I mean, I personally run 3 in my deck, so you could substitute definitely 1 out here. But playset of Torbram, again, another card that I think over time fares pretty well. We'll definitely see a bunch of use in Commander and stuff like that in a bunch of decks down the road. 3 Chandra, Acolyte of Flame, 3 Castle Embereth, and 3 Experimental Frenzy. And then the huge winner from this deck is an Embercleave. I mean, this card currently is valued at around $25, so that's definitely a big win for this deck. Over on the uncommon side, our totals were $15.24, and our rares and the 1 mythic add up to $88.34, bringing the total value of this deck to an outstanding $103.58. All right, so how does this one weather? Well, like I said, funny, I think Tibalt is actually a cool card. I think this is a little bit underrated, and it should see a lot of appearances in different commander decks and even possibly as sideboard tech down the road. Not saying it's maybe worth a whole lot, but it's just a cool card for sure, and one that should increase slightly over time. Light Up the Stage is a great card. I mean, a lot of red decks are going to use this in various formats. Bonecrusher Giant, like I mentioned, is going to see a lot of Pioneer play for sure. So, I think this card's $4 or $5 card is sort of its sort of natural home long term. Fervent Champion's really cool, make some appearances in night decks down the road. Torbram, I think, weathers really well. And then Embercleave over time, I mean, we might see a dip depending on how many get opened with these different, challenger decks. But I think my long-term sort of outlook for Embercleave is definitely bullish. I think that this is an excellent, excellent card. I think it's going to make a lot of appearances in a lot of red decks for a long time to come. So overall, I think this deck, not only is it the best value in today's prices, I think a lot of the cards in here weather really, really well. All right, and last but not least, we have Flash of Ferocity. It's one of my favorite decks to play in Arena. Simic Flash, just a really, really cool, fun deck. Anyway, okay, so this deck actually surprised me how much money is sitting in this deck. So over on the uncommon side, we have 3 Aether Gusts and a couple of Mystical Disputes. I mean, the uncommons in this deck alone are worth like 15 bucks. We have quite a few valuable rares in today's market as well. A playset of Night Pack Ambusher, 2 copies of Thassa's Intervention. It's really nice to get a couple copies of Castle Vantress in here, so definitely if you needed to add those to your collection, I mean, those alone are like $7-8 just for the couple of copies of these. And then again, we have a Fabled Passage in this deck, so another one if you were looking to have in your collection. It's a great way to kind of pick one up and add some other cards to your collection as well. 3 copies of a Shifting Ceratops, and then the big winner for sure in this deck is Brazen Borrower, which on its own adds about $25 in value to the deck. So the rares and mythics are $76.29, and the total value of this deck is $90.90. Really, really good value by today's standards for sure. So how does this one weather down the road? Well, I mean, things like Aether Gust, going to be sideboard tech in various different decks. Mystical Disputes, a really cool card. It's debatable how much play this is going to get outside of standard. I mean, it's get some play in Pioneer and stuff, so we'll see. It's always hard to tell with counterspells. There's always coming out with a bunch of different ones, so a lot of times cards like this just kind of fall by the wayside. They come out with something a little bit better, right? Night Pack Ambusher is a cool card. I see that one being sort of where it's at or flat anyway. I don't see a lot of play post-standard rotation, but it's a really, really cool card, and there's definitely some cool possibilities with decks down the road, so I think it's always a card that's going to sort of have some value. Thassa's Intervention's one that's going to be, well sought after for a long time down the road. Castle Vantress, same sort of deal as Castle Locthwain. Barring a billion reprints in a billion different Magic products over the course of the next year. I mean, if this is the last time we see sort of Castle Vantress for a while anyway, I think this is a card that definitely has a lot of growth potential. And I mean, we already talked about Fabled Passage. Shifting Ceratops, a great include as sideboard cards in the Pioneer format. So, and then I think Brazen Borrower is an excellent card. I've talked about this on several of my financial videos. Just a really, really good card, very comparable to something like Vendilion Clique. So definitely will continue to see play in, modern, Pioneer, all that kind of stuff, and for sure while it's in standard. So, but long term, I think this card has a lot of potential growth. All right, so let's sum everything up and just recap all the values on all of the decks. So the Allied Fires deck had a value of $57.30. The Final Adventure deck had a value of $77.81, and of all the decks, I think this one has the least potential to retain its value on most of these cards. The Cavalcade Charge deck was far and away both the best value by today's standards, and I think the best value for long-term potential. I mean, the deck is worth $103.58 in today's prices, and there's a bunch of cards in here I think will stand the test of time, like Bonecrusher Giant and Embercleave. And the Flash of Ferocity is also extremely good value, both by today's standard and for long-term potential growth on some of these cards. I mean, it has a value of $90.90 today. And I think cards like Brazen Borrower and Castle Vantress definitely stand the test of time. All right, I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and found the information contained within useful. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button. It really helps me out. And if you're a subscriber, as always, I want to thank you for being here. We really appreciate your support. And if not, now's a great time to go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We post at least 2 videos every week. Bye for now.